All right, everybody, welcome back. Excited to have you here for our next presentation. So a couple of reminders that we have, if you turn off your camera and mute yourself, that would be great. But I've added this little note down here. Some people have asked me for a certificate of attendance to prove they participated in some sort of faculty development. So if you need that, I posted that in the chat a little earlier, but I didn't want anyone to miss it who might need that. So if you do need some sort of certificate of attendance, please just message me directly in the chat with your email address, and I will get that to you at the end of the day as I'm wrapping things up. So, and a reminder for myself there to start the recording, which I did. So our next presenter, I'm really excited to have Diane Dieterich here. She is going to present to us on using digital tools to create 360 panoramas, walkthroughs, animations, and simulated wheelchair navigations, which I'm super excited to hear about. A little bit about Diane. She's an adjunct faculty at Bellevue College. She teaches SketchUp, Inkscape, and advanced digital imaging skills. At the last national SketchUp competition, 3 of the 5 college finalists were her students, which is amazing. So congrats, Diane. She also conducts trainings for design professionals in SketchUp and has presented nationally for SketchUp and NKBA. She is the owner and creative lead of C3D, an architectural rendering firm. C3D produces renderings for design professionals, realtors, and marketing firms. So with that, I'm actually going to be sharing the screen for her. So let me switch my screen share. And Diane, go ahead and
All
take
right, welcome. Can you all hear me? Yeah, so I'm going to thank Heidi for being my partner today. Technology on my end prevented PowerPoint from showing up. So, technology is our best friend and our bane of our existence. So thanks, Heidi, for forwarding my my screen for me. So I don't know about all of you, but I am excited and overwhelmed at everything we've learned today. And then, of course, you're like, oh my God, there's all this other stuff we have to learn. So I know that as faculty, we don't always have time beyond our own classes to really explore what's next out there. So my department decided to spend some of the grant money to actually just let me go out and explore and research, talk to local firms, read a bunch of blogs, and kind of figure out what made sense for our department to start thinking about integrating into the program. You can go ahead to the next slide. So in the end, we came up with this plan, and that was all going to be amalgamated into one summer class that we could kind of try out a bunch of these different technologies, throw them, a new one every week to the students, see what made sense, see what made financial sense, and kind of really see what the students got excited about. Okay, next slide. So these are the applications that after research seemed like it made sense for us to look at. So we do teach SketchUp and Enscape almost, at the very first quarter if students want to take it. It's a prereq for all the design studios. So expanding on SketchUp and Enscape made sense for us. We really want students to get a really good grounding of this so that when they get to design studios, they can really work on being designers and not having to struggle with the software. So we're going to look at some SketchUp extensions, how to add an IES light profile to an Enscape rendering, how to create animations and 360 panoramas. We also have an XR lab at Bellevue College. And unfortunately, they launched shortly before COVID, so I had a big down period. So they're really working on collaborating with departments. So we wanted to see how we could work with them. Obviously to create VR experiences, and then also collaborate with game designers for a wheelchair navigation experience. And then just looking at some new upcoming software also. Can you go ahead to the next slide? So I'm showing as part of the grant, we also wanted to just kind of record what we were doing. So this is a little video that we put together mainly for prospective students, but also to show other faculty what we're doing. Show the board. So I don't mean to be marketing our program to you, but you're just going to get a hint of what our students were doing this summer.
So this is illustration version of my model.
Oh, I know that's not the end of the video. Do you want to try to hit play again?
So we're going to go through, we're going to make our own version of this plan we're going to start in Morpholio trace.
Okay, is it cool? Yeah, I'm floating in the air, so that's not ideal.
I think the other possibility is that I started mucking around with it. Remember, I pulled it over to the axis first and just come in and manually enter 4.5 inches or whatever, I guess it would actually be.
They're navigating around an interior space in wheelchair, and their door frame's only 32 inches.
A lot of times you have to go into a space like this and make your own as-builts. So it would be really, really difficult to measure the space. But even a simpler space, it takes a long time to do it, and then you have to come back and build the model. We're going to get a SketchUp model that is accurate to within like a 1/16 of an inch.
Just the open area of the kitchen is way more accessible.
So I feel like with having QR codes, it's a lot easier to showcase your renderings to people. By doing so, this is great for, let's say, galleries or presentations and showing your renderings.
I take the inspiration from the features of Chile, like national flower, bellflower.
I'll be showing my animation that I made of my final capstone project.
Right, and go to the next slide. So instead of having the luxury of talking a half hour on one of these things, I'm going to do a really quick 3, 4, 5 minute dip into everything that we covered, and hopefully just to expose you to it, and you can figure out if you want to learn more from there. So first, we're going to look at SketchUp and Enscape's capabilities. You can go ahead to the next slide. So creating a 360 panorama with Enscape is actually really simple to do. And in fact, while we look at this video about how to do it, make sure you grab your phone so you can look at some panoramas that students have created. So go ahead to the next. So we use again Enscape with SketchUp. You can do the same thing with Enscape with Revit. And really what we wanted to think about is how can students go beyond just having a flat 2D board as a presentation, like what we've done forever. Like, how can we make these presentations, students' portfolios, and then presentations to clients, feel like it's more like you're in the space instead of just looking at this flat image. So making a 360 panorama, once you know how to do it, is like a 5-minute step. In fact, let's watch this video and see how you do it. So creating a 360 panorama using Enscape is actually really easy. I'm using along with SketchUp, which is the tool that we use to teach modeling to our students first. It will also act with Revit in the same manner. So you can see I've got my SketchUp model here. I'm just going to go ahead and expand my Enscape window now. And you can see that as I go ahead and make this a little bigger, as I orbit around inside of SketchUp, you can kind of take a look and see everything that is going to be captured in this 360. And sometimes it's figuring out where that middle spot is almost the hardest part, is figuring out, what I want to see in this image. So here I've got, this huge, let me go ahead and maximize this, glass, and all I can see right now outside is just the default Enscape delineation of the horizon and sky. So if I open up the preferences, you can see that I'm just looking at the default clear. If I could choose one of the default horizons that come, probably not the desert, that come with Enscape. But I know that this is actually a convention center in Detroit, Lake Michigan. So I'm going to try to find something that is a little clearer, closer to what is actually happening there. And to do that, I'm going to import a skybox. So a skybox is basically a 360 dome that is placed over your image, and it's many places that you can find one. I'm going to go ahead and open up a site called Polyhaven, which has lots of HDRIs, but if you search for HDRIs, you can find them in lots of locations. So again, I was looking for something lake related, and I'm going to go ahead and use this lake pier. So you don't want to download an EXR, you want to download an HDR. I've already gone ahead and downloaded that, and it's in my downloads now. So I'm going to go back to my panoramic setting. Again, I've got my horizon on Skybox, and I'm going to load Skybox from a file. So here is the Lake Pier HDR file that I've downloaded. I'm going to go ahead and click it and say open. And you can see right now that immediately I've got the lake outside of my window. I can also remember it's a 360-degree view. So I might orbit around and see, you know, what seems more appropriate for my entrance. Like maybe I would say that they are walking in on the pier to the entrance of this convention center. You also might notice that my light has changed dramatically. It's gone from that hot afternoon light that we saw before to this much cooler light. So I might need to come back and adjust my exposure to compensate for that. All I'm going to do is go up here and export. It says mono panorama, create a 360 image. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to take about a minute to go through these various odd looking images. And I'm actually, for this recording, probably going to speed this up a little bit. Now it's a little confusing. Okay, it's done, but where is it? What happened? And here's where, you know, half their controls are on the Enscape site, half are back in my SketchUp window. I need to go back to my SketchUp window, and I need to click on Upload Management, and that's where you can see the 360 that I just exported, along with many other things I've been working on. I want to click this little Upload button, and it is uploading in now to the Enscape drive where all your exported 360 panoramas are saved. And again, I'm going to speed this up for the recording. Once it's uploaded, it is now in the cloud. That means that you can share it with people. You can open up in the web browser. You can copy a QR code. I'm going to go ahead and open up here. You could share this file with your clients. Your students could embed it in something else. And now I've got my 360 panorama that I or anyone else with the code or the link can take a look at. Okay, next screen. So really, you could see that was almost in real time. So you can also create multiples of those and link them together in a tour if you have your own personal copy of Enscape. So if you're working on academic versions, sadly, that won't work. But here is a final project by one of our students, Song, and he created a variety of panorama tours. So I encourage you all right now to grab your phone and scan this code and just take a look around, you know, especially in this airport terminal, because it's such an airy, spacious. The scale is not captured at all in a 2D image. But if you're looking at this, you can see that you really get an idea of the open airy space. And that was Song talking earlier in the video about his inspiration, and I'm sorry, I'm forgetting which country it was, for his airport terminal. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on. I'll post this later if you want to take a look at those. And let's go ahead to the next screen. So it's also somewhat easy to create an animation in Enscape, not quite as easy as creating a 360 and well beyond a 3-minute introduction here. But I do want to show you an animation that a student created for this class. Just to kind of be clear what you can and can't do with Enscape. So with Enscape, you can create like one tracking shot. So in the old movies, you know, one camera moving through and that's it. But if you want to create a more sophisticated animation with multiple camera positions, you want to add music, titles, then you're going to need to use an software editing or video editing software. We use Camtasia just because we had it. I knew how to use it. But let's go ahead and look at this. And this was by a student who had just graduated. She came back to take this class. So this was her graduation capstone project. You might have to push play again, Heidi. Yes, you can see that really by, you know, adding that walkthrough of your space, adding the music to really give you the feeling of the space, suddenly like elevates this project to a whole nother level. And Nicole was like, I sure wish I had that for my, you know, graduation, but she can create a QR code, put that in her portfolio and really help, you know, prospective employers, clients understand what a space looks like. So I also wanted to look up SketchUp extensions. So, you know, there is thousands of SketchUp extensions, which are the best, you know, sorts of 20 best SketchUp extensions. So I did some research on that, including looking at the costs of them. Next slide. So these are the ones that I kind of narrowed down to, just the ones that were recommended most often. I don't know, I guess I can. I don't know whether, can you see my cursor moving on the screen? Maybe not. So Artisan is, if you don't have Rhino, like this is the one that lets SketchUp actually create organic shapes. Thank you, Heidi. Unfortunately, it's a little expensive. A bunch of these extensions I found when I called the vendor, they would give an academic price, even if it wasn't listed. So you may want to try that also, or try for some bulk pricing. Cleanup, the next one, is a great thing for students to know to keep running on their SketchUp models to help it solve issues with the model and keep it from crashing. Enroth Face Creator, if you are working back and forth, importing Revit or CAD into SketchUp, you always have that problem of faces aren't closing. So this is a extension that works specifically for that. And you can see both of those are free. So there's no reason other than the time it takes to download them to put them in your lab. The next chunk of 5 is actually $160 for 60 school licenses. And you can see the link there, and I can make this available to you later. So those are like a great kind of good 5 starter extensions for students to start playing around with. So that might be, you know, a good thing to download and just to get your idea, get your students comfortable with working with extensions. Same thing with Soapskin and Bubble below, that's free. And then Clothworks is really cool. It lets you simulate cloth being draped over anything, but incredibly expensive, so we passed on that one. The one at the very bottom, Skimp, is $45 for your license, and you might like, oh my God, we can't afford that for our lab. But I've got a little video that shows why I think it is incredibly indispensable. You can go to the next screen. And so here's why Skimp is so powerful. So here's a model, and if I look at it, it actually has 303,000 polygons in it. So just for a shower, that is way too much. And it is models like this that unsuspecting students just download, reuse over and over. Their files get huge, especially for their computers that probably or possibly are not strong enough. And the models start crashing and they don't know why. So I just opened up the Skimp extension. So again, if you haven't purchased Skimp, you're not going to find it. You need to purchase it from the extension warehouse. So I'm just going to pick whatever it is that I want to skimp or reduce the geometry of, and I'm just going to click Simplify Selection. I do think you might have to push play again. Thank you. And this is going to open up, and you're going to see right now, it's like, well, that is way too simplified. But the thing is that you can move this slider along the scale, and I can actually see when it starts to degrade my model. And this one, I mean, I can get down to, that's a little too far, like 20% of the size of the original model before it actually starts looking, you know, like the model isn't useful anymore. And of course it depends on what the model is, what it's being used for, you know, but a shower head behind a glass door, you know, in a bathroom, most likely this is incredibly detailed enough. So like I said, you don't need to put this on every computer. So our department is talking about, let's have 5 computers in the back of one of our computer labs. They have Skimp on. All you need to do is take your model to that once, spend an hour, you know, finding the large components and downloading them, and then go back and work on the other computers in the lab. So it is, again, like $45 for, you know, each thing, but I use it professionally every single day, every single project that I'm working on. And for students to be able to actually downsize their models and make them more workable and prevent crashes, and again, let them work on the design part and not work on fighting with technology. So let's go ahead to the next screen. So then we're looking at how we decided we could collaborate with the XR lab, or the virtual reality lab here at Bellevue. Go ahead. So this was really exciting. This is the Wheelchair Collaborative Project, and we teamed up with an ex-Bellevue student who had actually created with Unity, a gaming software platform, a project where wheelchair users, first-time users, could learn to navigate through the world without worrying about running into things, falling off curbs, falling off the edge of the earth. So, but we were like, how can we flip that and let our students understand what it's like to navigate their spaces in a wheelchair using the same gaming design? So I'll let you go ahead to the next screen and push play. A big part of this summer's project was figuring out ways that we could collaborate with the XR Lab, which is the virtual reality lab at Bellevue College. It was there that I first became aware of a very interesting project that a past student, David Wickstrom, had completed as part of his computer technology degree. So he and his partner had created a gaming platform where wheelchair users could experience moving through physical space, meanwhile learning how to drive the wheelchair with the same tools that they would have if they were actually driving a real electric wheelchair. So we wanted to flip that and say, what would it be like for students to experience moving through their spaces from the perspective of someone in a wheelchair?
They're navigating around an interior space in a wheelchair, and their door frame's only 32 inches.
So I built this purposely not very accessible space for students to work with. There's no stairs to get up. They come in and you're blocked by this greeting table that's way too high, the relaxation area we're going to get to, not really able to get into the bathrooms, and we're going to kind of look at this kitchen area back here. The seating is all too high for someone in a wheelchair, and it's not accessible or any friendly to anyone who's trying to prep and cook some meals here back in the kitchen area. and also the walk spaces here, the space for wheelchairs to move through is also not wide. We then took our students on a little field trip. So we are lucky enough to work about 15 minutes from the Microsoft campus. And Microsoft has distinguished itself by going above and beyond the code to make sure that their workplace is appropriate and welcoming to anyone with any sort of physical or sensory disabilities. So we were able to look at some modifications they had made there for their work staff, and then our students and teams came back and reimagined. Might have to push play again, Heidi. And our poor workspace. So here's the redesigned space that our students made, and we were able to travel through this with a wheelchair again. But you can see that it's much open when you come in. Everything is on one level. The kitchen area is accessible to everyone, dining area accessible to everyone. And we're going to take a look at, in a little bit, how you can make a notation of all these changes when you want to come back and share it with your client using another software. Okay, next slide. A big part of this summer. So viewing projects in virtual reality, that's really hard to show in a PowerPoint slide, and I think most of you have already done it. But again, I just want to show you how easy it is to connect up if you're using Enscape to VR goggles. Go ahead to the next one and push play. So moving from an Enscape model to VR is actually very simple. So I've got my same SketchUp model that we were looking at before with the Wheelchair Collaborative. I've rendered it in Enscape. Let me go ahead and just make this larger. If you had your VR goggles attached either wirelessly or corded, all you would then do is hit the VR headset, and it would search for the head-mounted display. It would link up to it, and then you could be seeing this model as if you were inside of it and moving around. Right, so you don't need to have a VR lab. You don't need to have a special space. You can do this in your classroom. It's hooked up to Enscape, attach your goggles, and from your desk, your students can start looking at their spaces in VR, which again, really gives them a new idea of the relationship of scale, understanding what it's like to be in the space, move in the space. So I encourage you to, get one pair of goggles and try it out. Let's go ahead to the next slide. So now let's look at some new software and programs that we looked at. So SketchUp on the iPad has been out for a couple years now. And luckily, I didn't have to learn how to, because we had James Akers, and this is his site, come to our classroom to teach us how to do that. So we couldn't afford to fly James Akers in. But if you're not aware of the SketchUp Visiting Professionals program, actually, can you click on that link, Heidi? The lower one. So SketchUp, this is a free program, and they really seem to push it to architecture schools and not so much made it available or made interior design schools aware of it, but they were very welcoming to work with us. So basically, they provide a professional, and if you scroll down a little bit, you can see the list of professionals. They can come out, do a talk. They did a day-long workshop or a class-long 3.5-hour workshop for us. There's, if you know SketchUp people, there's a bunch of the biggies of SketchUp who will come out. And again, we could decide what topic we wanted to work on. And, they paid for everything. And James showed up at our campus and was able to work with our students one-on-one and teach them about SketchUp for iPad. Go ahead to the next slide.
All right, just heads up, you are out of time. You've got like 30 seconds left.
Software to annotate 360 models and 3D models. If you go to the next slide, I'm sorry that we don't have a moment to look at this. So Timothy Allen, SeekBeak, you can actually go into the 360 model and see how you can annotate it, how you can click onto links, how you can have a before and after scene. And in the next iteration of SeekBeak, he is going to have a way to actually put that into your 3D models. So again, hopefully you can get this and check on his YouTube link. Really easy to do. A student learned it on her own, 5 minutes, added it in. Go ahead to the next canvas scanning software. Again, you saw a little bit in this, our beginning demo. Again, I've got a video here. Sorry, with our back and forth, we weren't able to get through all of this. So again, easy to take an iPad, an iPhone, scan your space, and you get back an incredibly detailed SketchUp model with tags and layers already embedded in it that your student or your client, I use this all the time professionally, can start working from instead of trying to have to be on a space and figure out how to model or to measure and then model as belts.
We are out of time, Diane. I'm sorry. We're going to have to move on to the next presentation.
Okay. Just at the end, I will put my contact info in the chat, and if you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to send you this to get all the links to the information. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. You can see it's well worth the hassle of having to download back and forth between Diane and I. So thank you everyone for your patience. Here is her contact information should you need it. We'll give this up here for just a second.